All right, hello everybody, wherever you might be, and welcome to the Prevu3D Expert XChange. My name is Jason Brynford-Jones. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Prevu3D, and I'm delighted today to be able to introduce Sébastien from Tetra Tech. Sébastien, could you give a little introduction about yourself and Tetra Tech?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Sébastien. I work as a BIM manager for Tetra Tech here in Quebec. I'm mostly involved in innovation and technology, so part of my role is helping team turn existing condition into what they can actually design. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. I think existing conditions is going to be a repeated theme throughout today. The other theme, of course, is the main theme is about getting reality into Revit. Very curious, really. I would love to do a quick poll before we get started and do any deep dive into how many of you actually use Revit. It would just give me an understanding about a bit how we might alter the conversation a bit. So yeah, if everyone could just take 10 seconds, that would be super helpful for us. All right. I think we were there. So it's almost 50-50. Fair enough. So I think there's a little. So Sébastien, I know that from your experience, there might be a little bit of education just on some of the pieces inside Revit, but I think just over the overall workflow, I think it's going to be useful for everybody. So today we are going to be covering a bit about some, let's say, a more modern approach to a traditional workflow. So I would love if you could explain a bit about what we're going to see today, a bit about the project that we're going to see. We have a little video coming up, but I would like to just set the table with Sébastien. Could you walk us through, cover a bit really about the project, how you worked with a client, and from the traditional approach to what's changed with what we're about to see today?
So the project itself is a water facility treatment, which we have a bunch here in the province of Quebec. We have a lot of old facility in which we're doing a lot of retrofit work. So before meeting my good friends here at Prevu3D, before this workflow, it was mostly traditional approach, which is both sidewalks, photos, manual measurement, and then a lot of interpretation back at the office. So the biggest issue was too much people dependent on guesswork, which make easy to miss geometry, misread clearance, and the worst was make assumption about how equipment was actually installed. So that led to rework, extra site visit, coordination issue, and a lot of wasted time. So I needed to find a way to speed that up. And so the fact that we're building from incomplete information and carrying that risk directly into the model was one of the worst problems that we had. So I needed to fix that. Which is where you guys come in.
So I know we do something slightly differently. So from where the challenge that you had, how did you approach understanding, okay, well, I'm going to do some reality capture as a first step? What was the approach that you took from once you understood that that's what you had to do? How did you actually then get the bridge to Prevu3D and then go to the next step?
So for that specific project, the goal was pretty clear. We needed to understand the real existing condition well enough to model with confidence and move the design forward. We are not starting from a clean, dependable Revit model, so there were no architect or engineering structure involved. We had pretty much nothing besides the scan and capture that we did. So we started from our capture data that we did on site and existing environment, and that's the kind of field condition that that usually takes a lot of effort to document properly. So that was our case in this scenario. Yeah.
How long would it have taken you traditionally for this, if you'd approached the water treatment plant to get all of that information compared to how you approach it now?
I mean, remodel everything from the architecture side, structural, and the whole MEP stuff to an exact scale, between a week and a week and a half of modeling, I'd say, for an experienced modeler. And there's always the risk of inaccuracy involved in that. So that's not what we want in that case, especially for that kind of client that deals with a lot of process in MEP that dates back to 1950, 1960. So.
Okay, yeah, so there's definitely not going to be anything logged around.
No.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at a video which was going through and looking at the scan, and then maybe you could just walk through what we're actually looking at as part of the project.
So that was one of the old POM in which we had some work in retrofit to do in this case. So what you're seeing right now is we're using the create asset tool, which is a little box that you get to create inside the application. And then all you have to do is make sure that you englobe the whole part of the asset that you want to import inside your Revit model. And you got different tools. You got the magic one in which you can just touch each face of the object. And but if you want to just include a whole package, you can just use the regular box. And everything that's included inside that box is going to be imported into your asset in Revit.
And so what we're looking at here is the water treatment facility. You did the scan.
Yeah.
The scan went into Prevu3D, and then we're now the mesh in Prevu3D is what you're cutting up here.
Yeah.
So that then you're creating these individual assets, and these individual assets then can be streamed into Revit, or or should I say the entire environment here?
Yeah.
I think you're looking at that's the whole water treatment facility there.
Yeah, so the whole point cloud and the asset as well can be streamed. But after you created your asset, you get the chance to import them and create a Revit family. From there, you can edit those family and create connectors from the outlet and start modeling from there. So you've reduced the time needed to create that family from a few hours to a few minutes instead.
Oh yeah, so you were talking about the week to the week and a halch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now you've pretty much got it instantaneously inside Revit. So I'm just curious, is there any part of this which you had to sell your team on working this way, or was it just obvious that this is how you wanted to go?
Well, at first there was some skeptic inside the team because it was what would be a word? I'd say too good to be true. Turning a 20-hour works into 1 or 2 hours. So yeah, I just had to show a few examples of how it workflows goes, and they were on board from there.
So what did it actually? Okay, so now you're inside Revit. Can you just give us an idea? Okay, you've got the workflow. I don't know if you had to keep going back and making any specific changes. Once you're inside Revit, can you just sort of identify some of the key?
Yeah, well, you start streaming the cloud point using the Prevu3D tool, and from there you just model your walls, your structure, your slab, and for all the MEP parts, we usually use the asset instead because it's way easier, and you get to turn them into the right category for the MEP stuff. So yes, I'd say there's a little bit of back and forth between Revit and Prevu for that part, but I mean the import and export is really quick. It's you're basically streaming stuff, so it's matters of minutes instead.
Okay, so there are two things I want to cover. One is we're bringing the mesh inside Revit for the asset, and then you're rebuilding or the asset as a parametric model to match, and then so it's obviously the mesh is a mesh. It's not parametric mesh or anything like that. It's just a visual representation with the right dimensions.
Yeah,
the right
exactly.
position. Okay, and then at some point you have to go back to the facility, I presume. So you were doing that virtually as well, or?
Well, we used to have to go back a lot to the site itself to just check back and redo measuring and all that. But when you have when you do a really high quality capture data like we had for this one, well, you don't have to go back as often as you used to. You pretty much have everything that you need from there. So there's no traveling needed after that.
Yeah. Because and I'm guessing though that at some point the new piece of equipment has to go back into the facility to do the replacement. And part of what you were doing, I'm guessing, is that you were measuring not just taking the scan of the equipment, but you were measuring your path back to the installation. So you were also getting a secondary benefit of having done the scan.
Exactly. So with most of the equipment, we were reusing the same equipment that were there. This was mostly the pipe work and the process work that we had to redo and remodel. So we got to reuse those same assets and just copy them from the one asset that we created. So we had a bunch of pumps and different equipment that went in this part. But you don't basically have to create 10, 12 assets. You just create one and reuse it afterwards. So again, a lot of time saved there because you don't have to redo 16 of them, just reuse just one and insert your parameter into it. That's it.
Okay. And I guess from just to reiterate that you don't have to do another site visit to know when you're bringing the asset back. It's going to actually, it's going to pass through here. It's going to pass through there because you can measure everything inside.
Exactly. If you're done, if your capture and your scan is done correctly with the right accuracy and the right level of detail that you need, you won't have to go back on that site because you'll have all the information needed. And in this case, for the few new equipment that we had to import and install on site, we just basically inserted them into our Revit model instead for the client.
And I'm curious. So from the client side of things, was there anything new for them, or was it just you were just keep giving them updates in a normal way, or did the time shrink for the turnaround? Can you walk me through how you interacted with the client differently?
Well, the client had a few comments regarding our work. Was well, two of them was well, that was quick first, and then he really enjoyed the high quality of the mesh that we had. Usually, you get some sort of scattered cloud point with which you have a lot of sound and blank parts and wrap here and there, but not in that case. That one was pretty close to reality that we could have. So
yeah, fair enough. No, I think that for the clients to be able to even potentially navigate their facility remotely with such high fidelity, I'm guessing it's new for them as well. So all in all, for this one particular project, start to end, can you just kind of walk through the timing? As in, okay, we did this, then we did that, and this is how long it took to do the whole project?
For the whole project, I'd say it took between a week and a half and 2 weeks. Well, it was supposed to take us 2 weeks, but instead, I think we did it under a week. Or maybe a little bit more, but we went on site. We captured the site during a whole day, and then we had maybe half a day of processing all that. Same goes for processing it to Prevu3D, and then maybe half a day of trimming, which includes the little back and forth that we just spoke about. And from there, we had the whole canvas in our background in Revit to model the walls, the slab, and everything else. And when I say half a day for the whole trimming, that includes all the part for creating every single asset that we needed in order to do our modeling.
Oh,
because as we've seen on the video, it takes a minute or two to create an asset, and add to that maybe a few more minutes inside Revit to edit the family, create connectors on it, and then you're done.
Wow. Okay. And so it was a TLS. Well, it wasn't a SLAM scanner that you were using.
It was a SLAM scan from Faro. So
okay. And did you use a service provider to go
No,
do it?
no. The whole thing was done internally by our team. We have our own reality team that capture data. We do everything from drones to terrestrial scans. So.
Okay. So I'm okay. So the investment in the scanner itself, I guess all the project, the amount of time that you had to spend, it's going to pay for itself pretty quickly.
It does, and again, we had to invest at some point to a very good scan, one of those brand new scanner, one of those terrestrial scan, and that helps a lot in that kind of project here, that we need high level detail to be able to reuse all those assets that we create from the different equipment that we have.
Got it. I'm gonna in a few minutes, I'd like to open the floor to any questions. So please do, for everybody, feel free to put some questions in the chat, and we'll show them up on there. I'm curious now, when you are pitching for new jobs, based on, I mean, I'm guessing you've done quite a few of these projects now.
Yeah, a lot. Quite a lot, actually.
So is your pitch really just around time, fidelity? How do you go about pitching now that you've got this workflow down?
I always like to do a little bit of show off with that kind of project that we did in the past, showing the client that you can get to that point, you can have that kind of deliverable at the end. But it depends of the scope of the project that we have. Some of the project doesn't really need to get that kind of tech like Prevu3D involved. But for the most part, of that kind of type of facility, which we have to do retrofit work, well, it helps tremendously. I mean, the difference is insane. You cut your time of modeling and going back on site and redo measurement, and you just get the insurance of accuracy from your model. So that sort of secure a lot our engineering team as well, because they don't have that little part of mistake they can do, knowing that can be a little inaccuracy in the model itself.
Very cool. Then I don't know if we can get to some of the questions now, perhaps within the framing of talking to your clients, within this. So I'm really curious, before we get into the questions, is people who are doing the more traditional way, doing the site visit, tape measure, what would you tell them? I mean, how do you still speak to people like that?
Unfortunately, yes. But well, usually those individuals, they look at the cost and the investment needed to acquire the right software. In this case, Prevu3D. They see a bunch of costs adding up on their quote for the client, but they don't even go ahead and do the math. What amount of time that you can save upwards using that kind of software. It doesn't. I'm not going to say it applies to every single project, because it doesn't. But in some special case, in some very technical case, every industrial retrofit work that you guys might have. I mean, this is the tool that you want for that. It does save your. I was going to swear. It does save a lot of time for you guys for that.
Maybe we could just actually, before the questions, just to refresh people's memory, maybe we could play the video one more time, and then we can look. So here is so this is inside the Prevu3D. So you've taken your scan, it creates a point cloud. The point cloud automatically generates this mesh, and the tools we're looking at now are the asset generation. And for your particular pump that you had, and that was important to obviously get the details, because there was no drawings you had of this pump, because it was
no that dated back in 1950 or 60s, I believe. So
right, and as you can see here, there's cables and what have you. So this is the Magic Wand tool. in action, and then we can actually create these assets in using these boxes. And on the right hand side, you can see the asset itself forming as you're doing it. Because you have this automated mesh, this high quality mesh, then it means the connection to Revit becomes a lot easier, because so this was the mesh being streamed into Revit. And these are the assets which were identified by your guys as the ones you want to work on. And so then these individual assets were the ones that you would go in here. Could you just again talk to me just around the Revit families just one more time, because I know we got a question inside there.
Yeah. So here's pretty much the asset that you just imported. So from there, you get to select which asset you wanted, and you get to export them into a family. From there, you open the family editor and just put them back into the right category, which is would be a plumbing equipment or mechanical equipment. And from there, you create a little extrusion and a connector and re-import them into the model, and you start modeling from there. And I do, Jason, it's just on a side note, point out the streaming of the cloud point, which in every case right now is a big deal, because we unfortunately usually need to go through desktop connector and all that to load up all those cloud points, which takes a lot of space on our computer. And just going through that tool and being able to just basically stream it instead of downloading 400 gigabytes of data into our computer may make a big difference.
Okay, no, good point. Yeah, right. It is extremely lightweight what we're doing.
And it's a matter of seconds to load your model instead of waiting a few minutes, depending. Well, the difference here is when you're streaming, you get just to go through the power of your bandwidth, the limitation of your bandwidth, instead of going through your computer. So you need a very powerful computer in order to load a huge scale cloud point if you use the traditional way.
Right. And I will point out, just from a technical side, Prevu3D, we invested in having our own hierarchical level of detail. So the closer that you are to the object, will load. So we have these tiles in the background which will load and offload the geometry, so that you're always getting the highest fidelity in the as close up, and we're offloading in the distance. And this is one of the reasons why we can do such a fast streaming. It's because we have this unique capability. We do have a question coming in. There was one which was, what were the toughest challenges of the scan and asset creation, and were there any dead ends?
I'd say that we had to change a little bit of the approach for the capture side, in which in the video that we see, you saw pipes and hose left on the pump. Well, for future project, what we did instead is we did a first pass on it, which was remove all those little thing here and there that were so I would qualify this anomaly in your capture data, to be able to have a clean asset without a hose like penning on it instead. But in terms of challenges, I mean, there were no challenges. There were just quick and shortcut using that tool. We were doing a very manual, intense way, and we turned that into a quick and shortcut way of doing it instead. So.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I know we only have a few minutes left inside here. Just from your general experience working with Prevu3D, is there anything that the light bulb went on for you when you first got into this process and the scanning to mesh?
Well, I'd say we had light bulbs light up on both sides of the table, because I mean, the collaboration with you guys has been amazing over the years. There's a lot of feedbacks, and we get to be I had the chance to be involved in a lot of your beta work, in testing them, trying them, and give some critical feedback on that. Because I mean, you guys are creating the product itself, but more than one using it on a day-to-day basis, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, no, I think I'm just so happy to be able to talk to you today, because this, for us, it's a classic use case of being able to reduce the site visit time, but also once you've got the assets, they're reusable, you can measure everything. It's going to be cheaper for the client, essentially, in everything, the time it takes, reducing the errors. I think, as you were saying, just simple things like that. It's, you know, those can add up. And I know that we've also had it where when the equipment goes back in and not actually being able to pass it through certain parts of the facility, and then you have to work out, okay, you have to get new people in. So even just on that level, being able to
and we had to choose the chance to use the VR tool that you guys have embedded into the application as well, which made it really easy for site review and all that retrofit work, in which we are we going to be able to pass those kind of equipment here and there. So there's all the tools for physical limitation within the VR itself. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, you pass the VR onto your client.
We did, because we don't want to waste his time doing a 2-hour drive to go back on site and recheck some stuff that we did. So we had the opportunity to do that on the VR instead.
Brilliant. A couple of other questions. I know we're going to have to rush this one, but do you ever just go and scan individual objects, or is it generally you're doing facilities?
I'd say no. We did both. In some case, we went into some mechanical room and just scan just huge HVAC unit just so that we don't have to redo it instead in Revit and create asset from it. But I mean, there's a fee involved for the whole processing thing, so you need to take that into account. That it needs to matter in that case. So just don't use it for just regular retrofits, little stuff. But when you have big mechanical room and you need the accuracy, well, that is the tool to go.
No, fair point. We do have another question just around virtual disassembly. I think I'm going to guess the answer to this, but someone was curious whether or not this was with Michael. Have you used the tool for a virtual disassembly? Is that something you would even consider?
Well, I would love to, but right now I'd say the tool, including the VR part, is not there yet. There's still some little work to do. I mean, the idea behind the application was not to get by the whole VR thing. It was mostly about exploiting the component and all.
Fair point. Okay, final question, and this is from Philippe. Was just curious again, just to go back on the Revit family. Would you be able to share a bit more about what the Revit family looks like? Maybe the quality, the file sizes, anything like that?
Well, the quality, again, depends on the quality of your capture data that you have. In this case, the quality was very high, but we had to downsize a little bit of the level of detail to be able to reuse those family in the future, so that we're not, using a really, really heavy family in that case. So I'd say under 10 megabytes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the worst case, yeah. Okay,
brilliant. We are at time. I'm delighted that we managed to spend this time today. I do really appreciate it, and certainly it's opened my eyes on one or two of the points. I knew a bit more about it, but I appreciate that. Hopefully, everyone has also come away with understanding that this is a slightly new way of working for a lot of people. But the benefits are all there to be seen. Thank you again, Sébastien, and thank you everybody for attending. I believe that we will be posting this hopefully soon. If you want to talk to an expert, if you want to book some time, get a demo, just feel free to reach out to us. And thank you to everybody who attended today. Hopefully it was illuminating. Until the next.
Thank you, guys.
All the best.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye now.
See ya.
All right. Hello.